All right, my name is Tommy Yoon, and before I begin, I just wanted to go through a few quick guidelines. We encourage audio and video recording of this panel. We encourage fans to be citizen journalists and encourage you to live tweet and Facebook this panel. We encourage fans to use the Robotech and MCM hashtags on social media. And please silence all audio devices, obviously. And without further ado, welcome to the MCM Comic Con Robotech panel. And I am Tommy Yoon, Creative Director at Harmony Gold USA. I've worked on Robotech for quite a while now. And the first thing I'd like to begin with for all of you here is thank you. Thank you very much. Over the years, it's truly the fan support that has allowed Robotech to thrive as a franchise and led to a lot of the things that we're working on today. And I'd like to highlight a few of the fans who have been very involved in the Robotech franchise lately. We've got fan art by a gentleman named Timothy Jason. We've got fans who are even creating Robotech tattoos. And we have one super duper fan in California who has created this customized Acura NSX Skull Leader. And it was actually featured in Anime Expo in Los Angeles. Now, for fans who want to catch Robotech, right now the best way to catch Robotech now is online streaming. And if you have access to North American servers, we've got Robotech available on Amazon, Netflix, Crackle, and for folks on the other side of the world, we're also adding streaming for Robotech fans in Australia as well. For folks who are into pop culture subscriptions, we've added Robotech to the lineup over at Loot Crate. If you've heard of you can get more information about Loot Crate at lootcrate.com. They create these monthly subscription packages, and here are some of the Robotech exclusive items that have been created, such as this LED lamp, and this exclusive Robotech Special Ops VM1J, and this Robotech beanie hat. And so we have more surprises coming on the way for fans who are subscribers to lootcrate.com. And we've also got new Robotech plushies coming out. And one of our manufacturers is Puni Puni Factory. And they've created a plushie Skull Leader, which is currently shipping now. And another manufacturer we're working with is Icon Heroes. And these are arriving in 2019, and they're starting with Rick Hunter and Roy Fokker. And you can pre-order these now. These will ship next year. However, items that are available now from them are the mobile phone wallet from Icon Heroes. And they're also working on new Robotech products as well. And you'll find out more about them soon from iconheroes.com. Another partner we're really happy to work with is 80stees.com. They are producing retro apparel. And here's a few examples of the really cool Robotech apparel that they've created. And this ranges from polo shirts to socks. So we're covering you from all angles. And for the very famous English weather, we've got Robotech hoodies. These were really popular. This is more or less like instant cosplay. And this is quite comfortable in weather like this. And for those of you into winter sports, we also have Robotech hockey jerseys. And these are available through 80stees.com. Another retro manufacturer we're working with is Super 7, and they've created these tees as well, including this very cool Macross Island t-shirt. They're also producing Robotech drinkware glasses, muscle figures, if you remember those from the 80s, and reaction figures, which are patterned after Kenner figures, if you remember those. And these are available from the super7store.com. And other action figures that we have coming into pipeline are from Toynami, and they're producing them in the 4.25-inch scale, which measures approximately 10.75 centimeters tall. And they're now shipping as a 5-pack. Wave 1 includes Roy Booker, Min-Mei, Miria, Rakunter, and Max Sterling, your main Robotech characters. And they're also producing flight jackets, as well as transforming toys. Their 1/100 scale transforming Veritechs now include a micronium pilot built into 1/100 scale to match with the fighter. And another manufacturer we're working with, which is creating super deformed versions of them, is Kids Concept. And they're also creating 1/72 scale Veritechs, complete with fast-pack armor. And here's one interesting new toy they've created, which is a dancing Min-Mei speaker system. Now you're wondering, how does a dancing Min-Mei look like in action?
Must be the sweetest feeling that a girl can feel, to feel love, to live a dream.
And that's now shipping, and they're also producing these miniature Min-Mei pullback figures. And these stand about 6 centimeters tall. And they're also soon producing the 6-inch scale Min-Mei and Rakunter figures. And these are arriving at the end of the year. And they also include interchangeable faces. And you can pre-order these now from the Kids Concept store at kidsconcept.hk. Another collectible manufacturer we're working with is Kids Logic, and they've produced this really cool 1/6 scale Robotech cockpit. And here's a sneak peek at their factory in which they're mass producing these. And these are presently sold out. So they're moving on to cockpits for the other characters, such as Max Sterling and Roy Fokker. So make sure to pre-order these before they run out. And we're also working with a manufacturer in Japan on Robotech statues. And this manufacturer is Prime One Studio. And here's a look at one of the projects they're working on, which is a large-scale EF1J. And to give you a sense of how big it is, here is the statue that was on display at San Diego Comic Con. And they're also working on a Guardian mode version. And here is a look at a presentation that they prepared for us. These will be limited to 1,000 units. So these are available for pre-order now, but this will be very limited. And these will also be available through Sideshow Collectibles. And we're also producing die-cast models with another partner by the name of Caliber Wings. Now this was a really interesting partnership. For many of you who are really into aeronautics, many fans recognize the Robotech, the VF-1, as being more or less based on the F-14 from Northrop Grumman. And we actually entered into a formal license with Northrop Grumman, the military manufacturer, to produce this die-cast model, which is an F-14 painted in the Robotech insignia. This is on sale now from Toynami, but we're producing this in the Roy Fokker and the Rick Hunter versions. And so this was really a very cool partnership that we're very proud of. And we also have the Max and Miri versions coming soon. And the company Caliber Wings is also in the process of engineering a die-cast version of the VF-1. Now this is not going to transform. This is going to be the beauty version of the VF-1 fighter, so that without any compromise, it's going to have the best proportions possible. And they're really working hard on this to make this a very nice die-cast model. And for those of you into gaming, we're also working with a card game manufacturer, which is Solar Flare Games. And they've produced a game called Robotech Force of Arms. Here's a peek at some of the cards they've designed. And this is now shipping. And they're also producing gameplay mats for card gamers. And they're also localizing the game into languages for around the world. And for fans of the other Robotech generations beyond the Macross side, they're also creating Robotech Crisis Point, which covers the Master Saga, Invid Invasion, which covers the new generation, and another game manufacturer we're working with is Coleco. If you remember this company, they make video games, and they actually took Robotech to Kickstarter.
This is Coleco Evolved. 35 years after we made history, we're doing it again with two all-new titles, Rainbow Bright, The Journey to Rainbow Land, and Robotech, The Macross Saga. These new mini tabletop arcade machines preserve the classic shape and heavy-duty plastic shell construction you remember from the 80s. We've updated the Coleco Mini's control panel and done away with the low-resolution calculator screen in favor of a full-color LCD display. Also gone are the 4C batteries in favor of a rechargeable lithium-ion battery. Under the hood, our new games come to life with a powerful new gaming chipset. System upgrades are just the beginning. The games have evolved too. First up, join Rainbow Bright and her pal Starlight as they spread color and happiness in this RPG classic in the making, Journey to Rainbow Land. Players take on Murky and Lurky, the enemies of Rainbow Land, who want to make the world just as murky and dismal as they are. Rainbow Bright is a retro classic RPG for gamers of all ages. Next, hop into your Valkyrie and defend the Earth from alien invasion in Robotech, The Macross Saga. Transform between Fighter, Guardian, and Battleoid modes as you take on the hordes in this classic side-scrolling shooter. It's the perfect genre for this updated retro platform.
Hey guys, I'm Tina with Coleco. For years, we've heard your requests to bring back these handheld arcades with classic cabinets and the same indestructible shells as the old Pac-Man and Donkey Kong arcades. We invite you to join the revolution and experience Coleco Evolved.
Fortunately, this Kickstarter exceeded its original goal, and these games are being made. These will ship initially to the backers and will be available at the end of the year. And here's a peek at the Robotech cabinet. And we're also producing Robotech tabletop games with Strange Machine Games. And the games we're producing are Ace Pilot and Robotech Attack on SDF-1. Here's a look at the Ace Pilot gameplay. It's a very fast-paced game, plays in about 20 minutes. And it's actually in a very convenient portable package. And this is now shipping. On the other hand, Robotech Attack on SDF-1 is a very, very large-scale game in which you're playing Siege gameplay with SDF-1 in the center, and part of the gameplay includes actually building up your SDF-1 in attack mode. And this is arriving later next month. And another game they're also working on for next year is Robotech Brace for Impact. And they're also working on Robotech Cyclone Run to cover the new generation. And they're also working on RPGs. And here's a sneak peek of the RPG rulebook that they're currently in the process of writing. And here's a look at some of the artwork that's going to be appearing inside. And speaking of art, we're very proud to work with Udon on Robotech art books. Do some of you remember Robotech Art 1, the highly collectible thick art book from the 80s? It was really, really hard to find. And to give you a sense of scale of the scope of this book is as thick as the original Robotech Art 1 book, except this book only covers the first third of the series, meaning that it contains 3 times as much data as it used to before. And here's a look at some of the pages about the individual episodes. It has more comprehensive summaries, better screenshots, more data and information about the capital ships within the Robotech series, such as this, the Centrati flagship. In the original, the book was copied and pasted together through analog methods on copy machines. This time digitally, we restored a lot of the original production designs and go into more detail than ever before, including vessel size comparisons for the fans who are really interested in all those details, and more information about the characters, such as Lin Min Mei, Rick Hunter, down to the size of the characters stacking up against one another. This book sold so well, it's already sold out, and they're printing a second printing. And they're also moving on to working on art books for the subsequent generations, such as the Master Saga. Unfortunately, I really can't show you what it looks like yet, but look for that coming soon. Now, speaking of new stories, we are proud to be working with Titan Comics, a local publisher, and their Robotech launched at #1. It was the #1 non-premiere comic book, which means for a comic book that's not in the DC or Marvel universe, it was at the top of the charts at Diamond. We were really proud of that. And we were proud to have fans involved, such as this fan art by fan cosplay photographer by the name of Jay Jablonte. He showed us his artwork. We were really impressed. Titan was impressed. And his cover showed up in one of the issues. And we're covering even the classics, such as the Kamiko books from the 80s. These are being reprinted and is arriving now, and the Sentinels are coming out next year. And I'm proud to have here today, if he's in the back, Chris Thompson from Titan Comics, the brand manager. And also, I'm glad to have him here with me, Simon Furman. Hello?
Yeah, I think, yep, it's working. Here we go. So, well, I thought maybe if you want me to, I could ask Simon some questions about the comics, just to sort of give people a bit of an idea of it.
Sure.
So, we launched the series, let me see, it was, what, July last year now? So for the first 4 issues, we had a writer called Brian Woodstock, and then with issue 5, we brought in Simon Furman, who I don't know if you're familiar with his work, but I think you've had a bit of experience with giant robots in the past.
Yeah, you know, I'm best known, I guess, for my work on Transformers. I've worked on pretty much every iteration for every publisher of the robots in the skies, but you know, strangely at the time I was, you know, while I was writing Transformers, I was watching Robotech, which was aimed a little lot older, I guess, than the Transformers cartoon was. So I really got into it in a big way, only to find that here in the UK we only got a very limited VHS release of the series. So I had to continue my Robotech experience with the Comico comics to find out what had happened.
Well, and with the series, we've been trying to do something a little bit different. So we are telling the Macross saga again, but it's not the story that everyone knows. So do you want to give a little bit of a sort of a hint and a tease as to the approach that's been taken there?
Yeah, sure. We wanted to evoke the whole spirit and follow the main story thrust of the original, which we love. But we didn't want to just feed people the same story again. So our Robotech timeline universe is very slightly different in some small ways and some big ways. So we're continually confounding, I think, the fans by throwing you big curves into what you expect to happen, not happening, different things happening, stuff coming forward really from the overall Robotech timeline. So we're bringing in elements of Masters and sort of hinting at the bigger, picture of the Masters and the Invid already, just because, we feel that we've got that license to evolve our story in a slightly different way. And I think that's only going to get more so as we progress through the series.
Yeah, we've got 2 collections out so far, which collect the first 8 issues. The 3rd is about to hit, which covers 9 to 12, and we've just released issue 13, which is essentially the beginning of our 2nd year and leading towards some big things.
Yeah, I mean, we're obviously working hand in hand with Tommy at Harmony Gold, and generally we're just sort of pushing the boundaries of what Robotech in comics can be, and really trying to sort of keep the old fans happy, but also make it as entry level as possible. So really, you don't need to watch the original series at all to enjoy this, because we started from very much a ground zero, and then we're going to start branching out in more and more different ways. But I think we'll, in the end, we're going to diverge quite considerably from the original show.
Yeah, I know, speaking from Titan's point of view, 2019 is very much going to be the year of Robotech for us. It's one of our big sort of tentpole titles, and one that we're really invested in. There's a few things happening that I can't even mention yet, because literally there are announcements about to happen in the next couple of months that will get ruined otherwise. But we're building up to a really big event over next summer, and I have revealed that that's called Event Horizon. So that is going to be really exciting going into that, because we're really going to blow things up and bring everything that has been seeded so far to a real head.
Yeah. Wow, cool. That's what you're going to call it?
Yeah.
All right.
We've been seeding so many mysteries in our series, and some of those will definitely reach a resolution with issue 20. So, we're going to give you some degree of payoff, but in the meantime, we're launch padding a whole, even bigger storyline behind all that.
I have to say, I'm so delighted to be along for the ride on this. I remember from the old days of the black and white comics in the 90s, some of the fans on alt.fan.robotech would be, they didn't get the continuity right, or this is different from the TV show and that. And now what we see on message boards now is, this is different now. But what does it mean? Because I know Simon's going to do something with this now. It's almost like Simon is reading some of the fan message boards now and is ready to troll them all with another curveball.
I think people are responding really well to that, so we're not just rehashing something they're familiar with. And at every moment we're trying to sort of say, look, here's a hint of the bigger picture we're building here. And I think people are really responding to that and picking up on all these small references to almost the future of Robotech now that we're dropping in there.
And I think that was sort of making good on the promise that we originally gave. When we first solicited issue 1, it was like, this series is going to take into account every iteration of Robotech. And so more and more things are being seeded. I know we've talked about bringing in other really surprising things, even if it's just Easter eggs more so than huge plot points, to try and touch on everything in that way.
And you know, sort of issue 14, which comes out in a few weeks, has got some of the bigger answers to the bigger picture of what happened to the SDF-1 and what they found aboard it.
And make sure not to miss that, because in issue 15 it even gets bigger. It's almost like we're trying to outdo ourselves with every issue. And somebody else I want to give credit to for doing such a wonderful job, on top of Simon's wonderful writing, is Henry Crescentia. He is such a hard-working artist. And how many of you want to see some of Henry's work? Right. I'm really happy to get a little bit of the behind-the-scenes work of Henry's working process. And here we have the rough layout based on Simon's script. Henry will lay out a page with loose illustrations, and we'll review these. And if this works with the script, or if there's minor differences, we'll all give him notes such as, oh, well, this character meant to do that, or no, this mecha, not that. And Henry will finish off the page. And this is the complete colored image. And what's really interesting here is if we zoom in at the bottom of the image, you notice that we have a Macross Saga storyline, and already the Idmid are involved. And this comes closer to the vision of what Carl had in mind, in that Robotech was the outcome of serendipity, where originally Robotech was trying to fill an 85-episode time slot, but because the opportunity where all 3 series were produced by the same animation studio, and certain things lined up where he could get the stories to fit together in his adaptation, he eventually found a storyline, which when I saw it as a fan back in 1985, I bought it all hook, line, and sinker. I didn't realize that they were actually produced as 3 separate Japanese anime, but the writing actually worked. And I was really fascinated and enraptured in the storyline, and now in the comics medium, we're actually able to blend all of them together in a way that we haven't seen before. I'm really impressed with the work that you guys have done.
I mean, it's such a rich universe. That's what I realized when I sort of immersed myself in it again. Because again, my exposure to it originally was a little patchy, but suddenly going through all the other worlds of Robotech, you just realize what a big, well put together, well crafted universe this is. So in a kind of impatient way, I just couldn't wait to get to Masters and New Generation. I really wanted to sort of accelerate things, so we pulled some of these big game-changing elements into the story as early as possible.
Yeah, I have to give the credit as well to Andrew, because his art is amazing, and I was so glad when we got him on the book. I don't know if you're familiar with his stuff, but he actually launched the new Power Rangers title for Boom a couple of years ago, and his work blew me away, and I was just like, wow, he's fantastic. And then he disappeared, and we started off Robotech with an artist called Marco Torrini, who really had this great sort of, you know, European, very different style that was the perfect way to say, hey, this isn't the Robotech you grew up on, or that you knew, or that your parents grew up on. It's something new, it's different, it's accessible, this is all bets are off. And so then Henry became available to take that over from Marco, and it was the perfect transition. I think in many ways it's been so seamless, because he was able to kind of blend in and match Marco's style at first, and really then branch out into what he does best. And so it's such a seamless transition, I think, and yet takes the book and elevates it to a new level.
It's certainly up the sort of the sheer dynamism of the characters, I feel. You know, I think suddenly, as soon as I know we're going to get the characters exploding into action, I know Hendry's going to put them in their best light. So we're really, really pleased to have him on board.
Right. Now, speaking of news stories, there is a big elephant in the room that many fans ask us about, and it is the Robotech live-action film. How many of you heard that a Robotech live-action film was actually in development? How many of you were aware that it's being developed over at Sony Pictures? We are so happy to be working with them. This is a studio that understands Japanese material, and they've brought aboard some great producers for us to work with on the development of the live action film. And they are Gianni Nunari and Mark Canton. And they've developed a stellar reputation in the industry adapting great comic book material for the screen, such as 300 and 300 Rise of an Empire. And they've also produced other very highly regarded films such as The Departed by Martin Scorsese, and The Immortal, which discovered Henry Cavill. And another producer we're working with is Barbara Muschetti. But many fans are wondering, who is the director? The director that we're working with is Andy Muschetti, and he directed this film. Oh, can we get a little more volume, please?
Because when you're alone as a kid, the monsters see you as weaker. You don't even know that they're getting closer. Until it's too late.
One thing I'd like to tell you about Andy, if you've seen the film It, he loves the 80s, he loves Robotech, and his film It became the #1 film of its genre and grossed over $700 million worldwide, and it was the best opening for any September film. Previously, prior to that, he directed Mama with executive producer Guillermo del Toro. And you're also wondering who is also writing this film, and that is Jason Fuchs. And he directed this worldwide blockbuster that grossed over $800 million called Ice Age Continental Drift. But he also wrote this other comic book based film you might have heard of called Wonder Woman. It was the best grossing film in the DC universe. And I've got a photo of the gentleman visiting us at Harmony Gold. That is Mr. Fuchs on the left, Mr. Muschetti, Andy Muschetti in the middle, and Frank Grama on the right, the executive producer and the founder of Harmony Gold. These fellows are huge Robotech fans, and they love the material. And you can definitely tell here, they've got a great rapport, and they are really putting their hearts into making the best movie possible. And so the next steps for these gentlemen is, Andy is presently shooting It in Canada, while Jason is working on a screenplay for the Robotech live action film. And the production team is working with Sony and Harmony Gold together to develop this film while it is shooting. And so that is the progress of the live action film over at Sony Columbia Pictures. So with that in progress, along with all the different worldwide partners we're working with in merchandising, we're really excited. This is, as Carl Mason would say, the best is yet to come. This is a great time to be a Robotech fan. Since we've got a good amount of time now, I'd like to open it up to questions if you'd like to ask about any of our new releases, or the comics as well, with the gentleman we have on stage. You'll have to come up front because this room is actually kind of loud. The question is, when is the comic being released in Spanish? Do you want
Yeah,
to? Go ahead.
So essentially, the question was, do we know when the Robotech comics are being released in Spanish? And unfortunately, the answer is no. I'm not sure. I need to find out about that. I know that a lot of countries have taken the rights to translate it, and I'm sure that Spain is one of them, but I can't remember who it is that's taken it or when it's going to come. The other question was, are we going to incorporate elements of the Shadow Chronicles into the comic series? And I mean, I would say that the answer is yes.
Yeah, I'm kind of saying we don't count out any iteration of Robotech that we might manage to pull into this.
Robotech, yes.
Yeah, that was my choice as well. If you didn't hear that, 3000.
Next question, yes. The question is, all right, how many films would we like to come out? Any studio will tell you if a film is financially successful, they're going to make as many sequels as possible. So we all want Robotech to succeed as much as possible. We don't want to shoehorn Robotech into any set structure. I think what's more important is that the story plays out naturally within the film medium in the way that Andy and Jason envision, and so we're really entrusting them to develop a really good story. Next question? Oh, by the way, I wanted to say thank you for your questions. We actually brought some really nice merchandise here from stateside. Would you like to get one of the 80s muscle figures? Or one of the action figures? Here. You too. All right. Any other questions? Really? I get to all keep this for myself? All right. Bueller? Yes, sir. Good stories in general. Oh. Yeah. Okay, so how does Robotech inspire us to make great stories? I have to say, when Robotech first aired in the 80s, what really captured me was generally most pop culture cartoons had self-contained storylines. At most, maybe it was like a two-parter story, but they were usually self-contained because broadcast workers over at television stations would be annoyed by linear storylines because then they had to air them in a particular order and keep track. They preferred stories such as Scooby-Doo where you didn't air them in any particular order. And Robotech, on the other hand, was almost like a telenovela. It was building up this grand saga, and the scope of the story really captured me. And the depth of the characters that they would build up a main character such as Roy Booker, and then shock the audience by killing him off, but not just for the sake of killing him off, but building up the character of Rick Hunter through his life experiences. And that's something I really appreciated about Robotech, and it really brought me into not just Robotech, but long-form storytelling. And lo and behold, now with streaming, this long-form storytelling has now become in vogue. And I hope, and I know that some people in the industry were heavily influenced by series such as Robotech to gravitate toward that form of storytelling. By the way, did you pick up an item for me?
I have to say as well, like for me, Robotech, you know, as we were talking about, Robotech is this global phenomenon that has really got out there. And growing up in Australia, I have as well. So in the mid-80s when it was coming out, I was watching it, you know, young and fresh. And so at the time when I joined Titan Comics a bit over 2 years ago, it was right when we were in the early stages of it and we were developing it. And I happened to be one of the people that knew more about it simply because, as Simon said, it wasn't as well seen here in the UK at the time. And for me, what's so inspiring about it and so interesting is that yes, it is these three separate incredible Japanese anime shows, but in terms of bringing it to an American audience, Carl Macek had such great vision of finding a way to stitch it together to create a story. And had he lived longer, he had sort of the vision to actually make it much longer and to be a story that would be this epic that could run for an entire year, and then you could go back to watch the first episode again and essentially have this cyclical saga that really drew you in. And so that idea of what he was going to do there fascinated me, and I think that was the inspiration for what we've done with the comic series, as far as really coming back to Carl's original vision, paying homage to that and doing as he had intended to do, and really creating new stuff and finding a way to build a cycle. So yeah, I guess in answer to that, I actually found Robotech incredibly inspiring personally, and really, what would I say, super-started my thoughts. It really, yeah, got me going.
I mean, it struck me back then as well that it was one of the few series I'd seen with such a lot of strong female roles in it. And in some ways, the comic, we've played that up even more because we made the decision to kill off the major character of Captain Henry Global from the animated series and push Lisa Hayes up into the role of Captain. That's become even more prominent, and we now have this pretty much all-female bridge crew, and it just struck me that for its time, it was very ahead of its time in that.
And one other thing, I wanted to add on how Robotech was ahead of its time back in 1985. You have two main characters, Roy Coker and Claudia Grant, who were an interracial couple, and they weren't even recording. It was just a matter of fact, it was just the way it was in the series. And what was interesting was that Robotech did not air everywhere in the United States back in 1985. There were parts of Texas where they would not air it because you can't do that. But in the Robotech universe, they were like, why can't you do that? Which many folks, in hindsight, really appreciate how it was ahead of its time in the way it presented strong females and expectations of, or actually no expectations of what different races were supposed to be. Yes. A new reboot based on, well, all I can simply say about the live action Robotech series is that Jason and Andy is working on, they have the rights to make any Robotech story, and they're going to make the best film medium story that they can. Right now with this current story, the story hasn't even completed its course yet, so I can't give you a crystal ball answer about the future, but thank you for the question. Please take an item here. Yes, sir, in the green jacket. So the question is, music is an important part of Robotech, and who is going to do music in the live action film? I can't give you that answer yet because they haven't even cast the film yet. So to give you an idea of how this information comes out, Andy Muschietti is currently filming It Too in Canada, and now that spies have showed up on set, they've already leaked that Jessica Chastain has been cast in the film as the older version of the main female character. So if it took that long just for information about It Too, which he's shooting right now, to come out, that gives you an idea. We can't give you this information yet. That will come out through the natural course of production. Yes, sir. So the question was, The question was, this gentleman was very happy to see Coleco working on bringing Robotech retro games back. One thing we want to share about Sony is that Sony is one of the few studios that owns their own game console. And Sony is very interested in seeing new Robotech games being developed. So I can't tell you what yet, but we look forward to seeing that in the future. Any other questions? Oh, I feel like I'm being interrogated by the cops. Yeah. Yes, sir. No, sir. No, I wasn't. What is this movie about? All right, are you curious what Robotech is about? All right. Robotech is a near-future alternate reality science fiction series in which the landing of an alien spaceship alters the course of human history. So imagine that some decades in the future from now, as Robotech first aired, when it aired in 1985 and predicted what the 2000s would be like, in that an alien spaceship came to Earth, and because suddenly the humans had alien technology, human society made a leap forward and changed, but then at the same time aliens came because they wanted technology back, and lots of blowing up ensued, and hardship and drama, and you had to watch it all the way through 85 episodes, and you were glued, and it kind of affected your life. Oh, never mind, I digress.
But it's going to be taking that as the foundation, right?
Yes.
Yes. And yeah, we had another one in the third row there.
I'm sorry? Oh, would you like to take an item as well? Because you asked a very good question. Oh, she got it. All right, awesome. So why? Well, I think people with science fiction, they're very fascinated by the future. And Robotech falls into a category that happens with a lot of science fiction in that Blade Runner happened in 2019, right?
That's right.
Wow, so we've got a lot of stuff that has to happen between, so somebody's got 1 year to develop Nexus 7.
Pretty much, yeah. I think the closest you're going to get is Blade Runner Comics in 2019 from Titan Comics. Unplanned plug. Anyway.
I think many of us nerds, we love the story, we love to predict what our futures might be like. And especially, I grew up during the last moon mission, I'm giving away how old I am, but I grew up during the last moon missions, and it was just fascinating to see, what? And the Soviets and the Americans are connecting their spaceships now? What? We're building Skylab? Oh my goodness. And so there was this grand fascination of what technology could do, and I think that affects many of us who are just fascinated, what could be. And I think Robotech feeds into that whole genre.
But where do you see it going? What's the next thing for you guys?
What, you want spoilers already?
I think one of the interesting themes is that, we're constantly asking ourselves with the comic whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. The gift of alien technology from the stars, it can be used one of two ways, or it can open a door to the wider universe that maybe we're not ready for yet. And I love the way that plays into the whole Robotech saga. We're never sure whether, this gift that's been dropped on them is a good thing or a bad thing. But generally, it's just, again, in that way, the way that it's used. It's the way that it's used, the way that some people want to corrupt it, other people want to do the right thing with it. So again, it gives you so many things as a storyteller to work with.
One thing I think would have changed a lot if Robotech had been made now versus back then is so much drama would have been different if, Rick just had a cell phone and he could go, Lisa, yeah, I'm not with Mimi, I'll be back just in 5 minutes, sure, no problem. It's just interesting to see how society in 1985 changed versus now. And in a way that allows us in the comic medium to change the way the characters are presented based on how we know like today is like. You were there, you had your hand up for a while? Yes? Oh, okay, yeah. Was Robotech inspired by anything? Oh. Yeah, Robotech was inspired by a few different series. Robotech was inspired by many of the crew who worked on Macross, the first of the Robotech series in Japan. Prior to that, worked on Space Cruiser Yamato. That's a very excellent anime series I highly recommend. It's about what if the Earth was bombed in the future and everyone was going to die of radiation in 1 year, and a spaceship only had 1 year to go to another planet to bring back the cure to fix the environment before everybody died. And what was interesting was that series had a ticking clock, but was also a long-form story, similar to the way Macross was. And I think it influenced greatly how Macross was put together. So that's one big inspiration. Another one is Star Wars. Star Wars came out in 1977, and the 3 series that became Robotech came out in the early to mid 80s. And so that was heavily, those were heavily influenced by Star Wars. And then one other series, I think one other thing, I remember that some of the producers were heavily influenced by Shakespeare as well. And they loved to put in these grand family dramas in as well. So those were the 3 inspirations off the top of my head of the original Japanese works. Yes, sir, in the back. What is the budget of the film, and what actors are going to be in the film? Unfortunately, I can't answer that question because since Andy Muschietti is directing the film, he would have the discretion to cast the film. So, unfortunately, I would love to answer that question, but I can't answer that question on his behalf yet because he hasn't even started that process yet.
Have you got a wish list? Is there somebody you see as Rick Hunter? Is it just somebody from the current crop of actors who just think, make a great Rick Hunter?
Oh, you look great! But no, I will not enter into that game. Next thing you know, somebody's going to say, you know, Tommy, you cast Simon Furman as Rick Hunter, and then we're all going to get in really big trouble, right?
That's going to go. I don't think it's going to play you well.
One more inspiration for Robotech that's really important. Carl Macek, the producer, was a huge Dune fan, and he loved the concept of limited resources that everybody fought over, such as the spice, and so hence Protoculture and Robotech Universe. So that's another series I highly recommend reading, Frank Herbert Dune Universe. Yes? Where is Robotech going to go compared to... oh yes, would you like a calendar or a shirt? Alright. Where is Robotech going to go compared to Star Wars or Star Trek? Well, we're not, I don't think we're going to have a Con Union scene in Robotech, right?
Probably not.
I think the one bond between them all, other than Star Trek and Star Wars, the recent versions were all worked on by J.J. Abrams, is that it just comes down to good storytelling. We just want to tell good, fascinating, engaging stories based on characters who do really smart and sometimes really dumb things.
And I think as far as the comic goes, even we don't know where that's going yet. I mean, it really is such a rich universe that we've only just started to explore. I think we can take the comic book in directions that I think will surprise us, let alone you.
Yeah, and what I would say in the comics favor as well, like I'm looking forward to the live action film in all honesty because I'm a fan and I'm sure it will be its own great thing. But the beauty of it is that there is going to still be a limit to how much money they can spend on any film because, you know, there aren't unlimited resources. But in comics, we have, you know, no limit to the budget. So Simon can just blow up everything, go crazy, do stuff there that you could never film as such. But in comics, we have the scope and the ability to do that, which I think for me is one of the things that just makes me come back to comics all the time and why I love them, because more than any other medium, it's visual and yet doesn't have the limitations of film and television and things like that.
I can't give a release date for the Robotech film yet. That would be at the discretion of Sony Pictures. Yes, sir. Oh, what is my favorite Robotech generation? I watched Robotech backwards, so hence I am partial to the new generation. So what was interesting was I started watching Robotech from the very end, and then I saw Scott Bernard fly off into space looking for Admiral Rick Hunter, and then I saw the series rerun, and then I thought, who are these young blokes? Oh, that's Rick Hunter, he's a little kid. And then I watched all the way through the 85 episodes to see if there would be an episode 86, to see if they would still find Rick Hunter again, and they didn't. And that's what motivated me to work on Robotech the Shadow Chronicles, because I wanted there to be an episode 86. And of course, in perpetual Robotech fashion, we're always going to frustrate the fans because we're never going to end it conclusively, because every new story will end with yet another cliffhanger. So that is the Robotech way. What's your favorite part of the Robotech story? Are we done? Are we out of time?
No, we're back.
Okay, no, mine's back. I think my favourite, in a strange way, is the Sentinel series that never got more than its 3 episodes. You know, I was just completely intrigued by this expansion of the Macross side of things. So, you know, I'm now sort of going through the novels and exploring that whole universe. So yeah, that was great.
And I guess for me, it was the Macross saga. I still love that, and I come back to the Rick, Lisa, Min-May love triangle. That to me is so much Robotech. Like, as much as it's giant, you know, spaceships and robots and all that, and really nerdy details about their paintwork and all that sort of thing, I'm actually like, it's just about the people, and Macross nailed that. And in doing so, they then set up that the other sagas would follow suit.
All right, since we're at 4:59, are we out of time? Or does somebody want to squeeze in a question before we... all right, go ahead. Quick. Yes. Oh, I love to include science in Robotech, because one thing that was great about Robotech is they would take recent space discoveries and incorporate it, such as when Robotech originally aired, they would put aspects of things such as the rings, understanding how the rings around the gas giants worked, and that was part of the Robotech stories, and understanding what the surface of Mars was like. That's what I really loved about the early episodes of Robotech, and that's something we want to incorporate, is what we know about our universe today. Yes, yes, it is. And as far as we're concerned, Pluto is still the 9th planet. Or dwarf planet, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. thank you very much. We're at 5 o'clock, so thank you. You've been a great audience.
Yeah, thank you.